Today is a really big day in the property world. The government has amended some of the coronavirus regulations, which means I can finally start filling some of my voids. But what other important changes have happened today? Hi, my name is Tony Law from Your First 4 Houses, and my channel is all about helping you replace a job-based income, which is a handful of investment properties. If this is your first time here, be sure to subscribe to the channel and click that bell notification icon so that you don't miss out on any of the free content that I give you each and every week. So today is the 13th of May 2020, and the government have made some major changes, meaning that people can now move if they want to. Now obviously the focus has been on residential property owners and how the legislation will impact them, but let's look at 6 ways that it's going to impact upon property investors, starting off with estate agents. Well, first things first, they can now open for business, but of course they must follow the government guidelines when it comes to maintaining social distancing and so on. You can't now just call in to see agents, I would suggest. Ideally they need to make appointments so that you can actually call in to see them in their offices. They must of course maintain 2-metre distancing as per the government guidelines, and if that's not possible, for example if they're going out on a viewing with you and you can't maintain 2 metres, then ideally you should both be wearing masks now. And where they're not accompanying people on viewings, they really need to make the buyer and the seller aware of all the social distancing requirements and so on and so forth. And agents, by the way, mustn't now drive buyers to the viewings. Let's talk about marketing and how you should be marketing your properties, maybe with a focus on HMOs. Yes, you can and should now start marketing for tenants. And I've certainly got quite a few voids that I personally need to fill. In fact, lots of landlords currently have voids, certainly the ones that I'm talking to, so you need to get ahead of the competition. You need to start marketing right now. And if you're using an agent, they can now call out and photograph and measure your property. But you need to push them. You need to push them really hard, I would suggest, because suddenly everyone is going to be chasing these agents to come on out, measure up, take photographs and get their property on the market. Everyone's currently talking about doing virtual viewings. This seems to be the new sort of buzz phrase. But what actually are these? Well, there's actually 3 ways to do a virtual viewing. You can do a pre-recorded video walkthrough where you kind of move your camera throughout the building. And if you're going to do this, I'd encourage you to use some kind of a Steadicam type system. You can use 3D cameras. You may have heard of Matterport. This seems to be the sort of main player that's out there, and they have a plan that starts at free. It's free to actually use their service for that first property. Or the landlord or agent can actually walk around carrying an iPhone, for example, and sort of show the potential tenants any properties and maybe answer their questions live as they're answering them. Now is a great time to kind of up your game and move to more of a kind of permanent virtual viewing type system, can I suggest. Let's talk about real viewings and how you would conduct those. Obviously, you can't do any viewings in houses where tenants are symptomatic or self-isolating, pretty obviously. And also obviously, if the property is empty, it's going to be much easier to organise a viewing, isn't it? So why not start actually thinking about it? Why not start by doing a virtual viewing first of all, especially in an HMO where there's a far higher chance of sort of bumping into potential tenants. And then maybe if that virtual viewing goes well, then you move on to a real viewing. Before the viewing, send out the potential tenant a fact sheet, can I suggest, letting them know exactly how that viewing is going to be conducted with safety in mind. Not only is this a really good thing from a safety standpoint, but it's going to put you head and shoulders above any of the other landlords, I would suggest, that aren't putting something like this in place. You can use apps like message templates to do exactly this and send that potential tenant a templated message which gives them an outline of what they can expect during the viewing. All viewings should be limited to members of the same household and never an open viewing at the moment. These should never take place. And make sure that you tell the potential tenants that this is the case. Before that person arrives, you should open any internal doors so that they actually don't have to touch any of the door handles. In fact, maybe can I suggest that you wedge these open? If it's an HMO, ask all of the tenants that are already in the house to stay in their rooms and make it absolutely sure that they know that you are coming. Obviously, you need to stay 2 metres apart during the viewing. And again, where this is not possible, You need to put a mask on, to be honest with you. After that viewing's taken place, clean all of the door handles, clean all of the working surfaces. It won't take you long if you're using sort of antiseptic wipes. And whether you're the landlord or the tenant, make sure that you wash your hands immediately after the viewing. And if they want it, if they want that property or if they want that room, can I strongly suggest you can do so much of the processing of their application online. Let's talk about checking the tenants in and checking them out again. Firstly, and obviously, any kind of moving in is wrong if the tenant poses a direct risk of transmitting coronavirus. And if you have it, or if you're self-isolating, again, obviously, you should not be doing any viewings of any kind, and you certainly shouldn't be moving tenants in or out. Don't pressurise the tenants in any way at all that they must adhere to the moving in date that you've actually set. I honestly think that's the worst and most unethical thing that you can do now. You need to be flexible, I would suggest, with tenants at the moment. And any contracts that you're using should reflect this flexibility. Make sure the property is deep cleaned before somebody moves in, and I would also very strongly suggest that any time keys are changed hands, you need to again give those a really good clean, a really good wipe over with an antiseptic wipe. And lastly, let's talk about tradespeople. If possible, you want to do any work in the property between tenancies. That's the perfect way of doing it. But if that isn't possible, and I accept in most cases it isn't, you ideally need to book the tradesperson into a very specific time, and ideally minimise any interaction that they have with any existing tenants that are in the property. Maybe tell the existing tenants to stay in their room whilst that tradesperson is there. And as the tradesperson walks through the front door, say to them, "Oh, just before we get started, would you mind terribly just washing your hands? Would that be okay?" Any professional tradesperson is going to say, of course, no problem at all. In fact, I'd be disgusted if they'd said anything other than that. And so, of course, make sure that you've got fluid or wipes or whatever you're using available for them there to use. And I would suggest blue paper towels. You know, those big sort of blue paper towel rolls is a better way for them to dry their hands than using conventional towels. And lastly on this bit, maybe mention before they arrive that you won't be providing them any refreshments, any teas or coffees or whatever. Ultimately, the government have laid down really clear guidelines on how you can make sure that you keep yourself healthy, and of course any tenants or agents that you're interacting with. You just need to really go down and read the current government guidelines, and I'll put a link to that in the box below.